Hello, Ian here from Dark Blaze Workshop. Welcome back to another video. This one we're doing the Chamber of Secrets themed gaming board for the Harry Potter Miniatures Adventure game. Okay, apologies for the dodgy camera work, but I'm holding it in my hand at the minute because my clamp isn't high enough to do any work with. Anyway, it used to be a 4 foot by 2 foot board, 12mm MDF from B&Q or any hardware store really will do. And we'll zoom in a second to show you the actual dimensions that I've marked out on the board. So for the dimensions of the board, this line here from top to bottom is 70mm. So you measure from this edge, mark off 70mm and then draw a line straight down and do the same at the top end. I know I cut it down from 4 foot going that way, so it's a lot shorter, but I kept it 2 foot going width-wise because basically I was lazy and I didn't want to do another saw cut. So that's left me with a space top and bottom of 109mm. So that's the same up the top. So you mark each line there 109 and draw it up to the top there, and then do the same for the bottom there. So that leaves an area of 390mm that way and 630 going that way. So in that space we're going to have 3 of these boards that I got from Eddie at The Real Alchemist. He does some really cool Dungeons and Dragons MDF stuff, and these are actually for a different system, but I asked him to make them in the same dimensions as the Harry Potter boards. So you get 3 boards with a base set, or the core set, 7 squares by 13 squares, and they're 30mm in dimension. So that fits within the area that we've marked out. I'll leave a link in the description to The Real Alchemist if you wanted to get one of these, or a set of 3 boards. I think it was about a tenner, I think, to get them posted as well. So yeah, it's pretty good value. So the next step was I've run out of I had this lovely big sheet of grey card that I got from an art shop years ago, but I don't seem to stock it anymore. So I bought a canvas that you can get from the range. You can probably see the material there that it's made. That's the actual painting surface, but on the back it's smooth. So it doesn't really matter because we're going to be plastering over these anyway. So I'm going to put strips around the outer edge of the board and glue them in position. So I've got a complete rectangle, and then I'm going to glue strips along the inner area that we've marked out as well. So once I've done that, we'll come back for the next stage. It'd be worth noting that it's wise to glue the bottom edge and one of the sides in first. Like here. Make sure you glue into the outside of where you've marked as well. Otherwise your boards aren't going to fit. So once I've got a 90-degree there. Right, so what I do then is to check that the boards fit inside. So that's good. So we've still got the line going here, I can see. So what I'll do, I can then just maybe adjust it by a couple of millimeters so that I've got a little gap before I glue them in. And I'll just check the top. Yeah, I can see the line there, so I'm okay to glue along the line there. And then when I'll take the boards away to glue the cardboard strips in place, I know the boards will fit back in afterwards. So I'll carry on gluing. Just make sure I don't go over the line now. Okay. Checking that I'm along that line now. That's good. Let's just wait for that to dry. Okay, so we've got the outer area done and the inner area. So all that's left to do now is to check that the boards still fit. They do. Perfect. Right. Next stage is to add some foam around the border now. I use, just grab it. Sounds a bit weird, but that's the stuff I use. I get it from the range or hobby stores. It's just foam kids use for making collages and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add that, well, I'll cut it to size and just make my way all around the border. So I'll come back when that's done. I'll just show you, probably know this already, but a quick way of measuring it is to line it up along the bottom And I mark it off where you can see the cardboard. It's really thin, it only takes one stroke across with a craft knife and it fits perfectly. This stuff is only, I think it's about 99p a sheet, so that's one sheet already done. 2 sheets should cover the whole border. If you didn't want to use the MDF boards and you wanted to do the same with the inner thing, I wouldn't bother with the, I'll talk about that later, but you wouldn't need to do this inner border. You can just do the outer border and fill the whole thing with foam sheet. But I wanted to use the boards on this one. Perhaps I'll do another one where I use the foam sheets for everything. I'll just mark off another one. We'll talk about that more when we come to the plastering stage. No, wrong strip. Go. And that bit is redundant unless I use it across the top there. Okay. Okay, so we have a border in place with the foam. Next thing to do is get some quick drying PVA, or any PVA will do really. Just make sure you've got a good line around the outside, a little bit in the middle. Takes about half an hour to dry this stuff, it's quite good. I might suggest if you leave something on top of here just to weigh it down into place till it dries. But, it's pretty good stuff, it doesn't move that much. Right, I shall carry on and we'll come back at the next stage. So just a slight change from the last board that I did. I'm going to use this ready-made filler instead of mixing my own poly filler and see how we get on. Doesn't seem to be that bad a consistency actually. It's a lot thicker than I'm used to, but I'm hoping it'll dry a lot quicker than the stuff that I mixed with water before. So leave me to it. I'll come back for the next stage. Just wondering how far a tub will go. Actually, the size is 750 grams, so I think maybe 2, but we'll see. Okay, so I've been out to the garage. Plaster's totally dry and I've sanded it all down. Apologies for the noise, my laptop is processing another video at the minute. So what I've got is normal PVA glue and an old brush, and I'll just apply that to the whole board. Let's hope it don't run out. As you can see, it's not too thick. Make sure you get into the edges. I've got my boards ready at the side to just slot into place. Okay. So 3 boards. Just find a load of books now to just weigh it down till it dries. So I've moved out to the shed now. As you can see, I've primed everything black, but now I'm going to use grey now from Halfords, and I'm just going to create a pattern really, just to break things up. So the object is just to get some light and dark patches really, and before we move on to the white, I'll try and feather out at the edges, or you know, not so heavy. And if I want to go more intense, I'll go closer to the board. But I think this will do for now. Okay, so I'll move on to white next. It doesn't have to dry. But I'll go straight in and try and go within the grey that we've just done. I know it's pretty difficult with a rattle can, but give it a go. It's not perfect, but as long as we've got different patches of white, grey and black, I think we'll be okay. And that's it. We'll move on to the oils next. I'm moving on to the sides of the board now. If you've seen the Hogwarts corridor board, it's exactly the same process as that. However, the foam board that I use in that one is starting to warp, so I've gone for a stronger, more durable option. So this is 9mm MDF. So the height there is 120mm, and then the height here is 195mm, I think 200mm, something like that. So my the door is going to sit about there. So just make sure you've got a bit of height above the door. The side wall is going to match up with this part here, so that again is 120mm. And obviously just measure down the length of your board and cut off that bit. So you've got a long side and you've got the top end of the board covered then. Next job was to put some magnets in. So I've done a line there at 20mm and 40mm, and I've started off the holes with a pin vise there. So I've got one set of holes there, there, there and there. So I've done 4 sets. Obviously because it's a heavier piece of wood, so I've got 8 magnets in all holding it in place. So the trick is to have this mending plate that attaches to the board. So if you imagine the board is sitting there, this will sit on top of the edge of the board. You undo one screw, flick it up into position, and it'll hook onto the magnets there and hold it in position there. So the next job is to drill some holes. I haven't got a pin vise that wide because my magnets are quite wide. I think they're 3mm, something similar. 5mm. And obviously you've got the drill bit ready to drill the holes in there, and then we'll flip it over and add the fun foam and the plaster like we did in the previous stage on the board. Alright, so the holes have been drilled. I've checked that the magnets fit inside that space. But first of all, before we glue the magnets in, I wanted to glue the foam in on this side. So as you can see, I've done the strips of card just to reinforce the edges when we put the plaster on. And it's just a case of cutting some foam to size and gluing it down with PVA. So I'm just going to start with the canopy glue. This is fast drying PVA. It dries in about half an hour. This stuff is great. I'm not sure if I've got enough to do this job though. So I'll concentrate on the outside first so we get a seal. I'm not so bothered about how much goes in the middle area. That should do. And just fix the foam in position. Don't worry too much about any gaps because you'll be putting plaster over the top of this anyway, so let's leave that to dry. Okay, so what I've done is I've filled the holes with PVA glue. I'm just going to push the magnets in. PVA glue will hold the magnets in place, plus they'll seal any gaps underneath. Need to force them into place so they're flush against the wood. And what you can do then is put another coat of PVA over the top then. Just add another protective layer. Just leave that dry. Right, so the end of the board has been plastered. Well, first of all we put the card border in, then we plastered it, sanded it so it's nice and smooth, and now we're going to add the brickwork pattern. I've added the template of where the door is going to be so I don't have to carve out the brickwork under there. So as in the previous stages, I'm using this Stencil tool, a slightly sharp edge. It's not really sharp, it's quite blunt really, but if you can use anything just to score out the brickwork pattern. So once I've finished this, I'll be taking it out to the garage to prime it and we'll be ready for painting. So I've done exactly the same for the side wall, but I've added in the windows and doors ready, so it just needs a little bit of a clean up and that'll be ready for priming as well. Okay, moving on to the weathering stage. What I've got is a collection of oils. I've got the burnt umber, black. I usually use the sap green, but I've run out, so I've got this light green, permanent green light. I added a little bit of blue into it just to darken it down, and a bit of black in there as well, just to get a nice sap green kind of colour. So what we'll do next is get some white spirit, which I get from a local hardware store. Don't buy clean spirit, that's the wrong stuff. It doesn't work as well as the white spirit. So what I'm going to do is mix a little bit of white spirit into the oils already. So it's all ready to go, and I've got a larger brush that I use for larger areas. It's a 1-inch brush from, can't remember where I got it from, probably hardware store as well. And get rid of the excess. I'll just put a thin coat so that we get the oils moving. Because it's plaster, it might just stick in the same spot. So it's like a lubricant, really. So I'm dotting on the black. I'll move on to the burnt umber next. Put that in between the black. And you've guessed it, next up is the green, which I want quite a bit of, so I might go a bit heavy on the green. Okay, I might notice that I've got some old envelopes here with the cardboard backing on them that I get my comics in. It's purely to save the freezer getting inundated in white spirit. So as you can see, so just start streaking away. It's the messiest part, but it's my favourite part as well. Just keep moving the brush up and down. Remember, this is around the Chamber of Secrets, so you want it really dark and dingy. Plenty of green. So just use the white spirit then to remove the oils. It's totally up to you how much you want to remove. The more white spirit you use in one area, the more dilute the oils become, and it takes off. And basically just keep going till you're happy. Remember, it will dry a bit lighter than it appears, so don't get rid of everything. just get the odd light patch in there like that. Just make a nice effect. Try and get rid of heavy streaks as well. Let's try and blend them in. And I need more. White spirit there. You can probably see why I do this out in the shed, because the wife will go nuts. As the house usually stinks after doing this stage. You can get odourless stuff, but just make sure it is white spirit and not the clean spirit. I don't know why, but it just doesn't work as well. It's probably whatever they put in it as a substitute. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there because I've got nice green streaks, brown streaks, and black as well. What I'm going to do is paint black in the windows, in the voids, and then highlight the frames in grey. But I think that's looking not too bad. I'm not sure whether I'm doing the doors a different colour or not, so I'll get rid of most of the darker colour. Just extra white spirit on the brush. Right, I'll leave that there. Move on to the next one, which is the chamber door end. Let's leave that one there. And it's the same process again. I've glued the door in position already. This is the black. And the green. Remember, I'm doing more green than any of the other two colours. That's how is our slithering after all, isn't it? Okay. I want the move that out of the way there. And the white spirit, shriek away. Forgot to do the white spirit coat. Okay. See, it flows a lot easier with the white spirit. I should say the white spirit on the board. I might use a smaller brush on this area. Just add a few blobs here and there. Work it in. You might think, what the hell is he doing? But just remember, you can get rid of most of this paint purely by diluting it with white spirit. left that board there so I've got a reference of how dark or how light I went. So this should be able to match up on the board. The lighter you go with the brush, the better it'll blend as well. See, I'm trying to lift the excess at the edges of the circle. Chances are I'll paint this again differently anyway, like I did last time, but see how it goes. Let's get rid of the excess now and just drag it over the surface just to pick up the excess white spirit now. Right, and there we have it. So I'm just getting towards the end of the stages now. I've done about this half of the board, now I'm working on the last half. But what I'll do, I'll pause it and then I can speed it up, then you can see the process a lot quicker than it's actually happening, so I won't bore you. Right, so the oils are dried nicely, quite happy with that. With the door itself, it didn't work so well because there's too many different layers going on there. The oil streaking technique works better on a flat surface. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go for a stony colour again. So I've done a dark blue-grey coat there, and what I'm going to do is use a
heavy blue-grey now, and I've got a bit of a sponge, and I'm just going to get a stony effect going. On the plate at the back. I'm not so worried about the snakes, as I'm going to be dry brushing them as well, so let's put a little effect on there just to pick them out a bit. Whereas the back plate is going to be the most awkward to do, so I'll get that out of the way first. So I'm going to carry on for a bit and then we'll come back. Okay, so next up is I've added a bit of blue-grey pale to the heavy blue-grey, so it's a bit lighter again, and I'm using this stipple brush that you can get them off eBay. If I put a link in the description of the video, you can get a set of about 4 or 5 of them for, it's quite cheap really. I think they're called Stencil brushes, I think. And this gives you a bit more control than the sponge. I'm just trying to build it up. Leave a shadow around the snake and just build up the colour that way. And I'll just go around once more. Just towards the outer edge. Next stage is going a bit lighter again. I'm using a makeup brush now. You can get these off eBay as well, they're quite cheap. I think I bought a set of 20 for about £5. Much cheaper than buying a dedicated dry brush, you know, from Army Painter or Games Workshop. Things work out a hell of a lot cheaper. They come in different sizes as well. Have a look for the sets of 20. Might take a while to get posted because they come from China, but well worth it. Right, so we're getting there. I think if I add a little bit of off-white to that mix, just to lighten it again, we're getting in the realms of Administratum grey with a little bit of white in it. And I'm just going to dry brush again. Let's get rid of the excess. I'm not going down the sides of the snakes at all, I'm just staying up at the top. And the next stage is going to be a wash, but I'll leave this dry properly first. Okay. So onto the side wall. What I've done is got a dark grey mixed with a little bit of black and a little bit of purple in it because I like a bit of purple in my colour. So I've applied that to all the MDF parts, and I think we'll crack on with some highlighting towards the top. So I've got some somber grey. It's like the Fang, something similar to that. Just grey with a bit of colour in it. You probably know by now that I don't like just plain greys. Just staying up towards the top half. And heavier strokes towards the top. Again, I'm using a different makeup brush again. It's part of the same set. I have to go a bit lighter at the top, I think. Final stage, you can probably see on these that I've done just the top third now, so I stop at the bottom of that triangle with the Fang with a little bit of light grey in it, just to lighten it up the top. Makes it a bit more interesting. I'll do the same for the tops of the arch on the door. A bit more pale grey in there as well now. And just do the top of each one. Alright, I think we're done there. I just thought I'd give you a close-up of the dry brushing that we've done. As you can see, it's a lot lighter towards the top. That's what I was after. It looks quite good. So, I think we'll go back to the chamber door next. Okay, so that's dried nicely, so I'm going on to the wash now. I ran out to the Celia green, is it? I can't remember. It's the darker GW wash. So what I'm using is the Beal Tan green, equal parts with Grax. So 4 drops of each of them, and then 2 drops of the black, just to darken it down again. And I'm just going in the recesses first. So let's go in between each snake there. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to water it down a bit, or add some medium to it. Allow me in medium. Let's go across the eyes as well. And once this is dry, we'll go in with a second coat, which is a bit lighter, or less intense, I should say. on it, so I'll wait for that to dry. Okay, so the second coat on the wash. So remember we had 4 drops of the green, 4 drops Agrax, 2 drops Null Oil. So I've added 6 drops of medium. Obviously I've made way too much. But I'm just going to go over the whole snake now. And I think it is suitably green, but not too green. Should have had a bigger brush. I haven't got one at the minute, I don't think. I'll have a look. Well, here we go. Still got a bit of grey on it. That's no good. Back to the drawing board on that bit. I'll wait for that to dry and come back. That'll teach me for not washing the brush. I'll use that to paint the back part of this, the door. Let's see, I'll try and get rid of some of that. I'll soak it up. And I'm going to go a bit heavier the nearer I get into the roll at the back here. We'll leave this dry and see if it needs another coat, I think. Okay, a little bit's dry, so I'm going to go in and do that bit while the rest is still drying. I keep spotting bits that I've missed. So I made the effort and washed that brush off. And what I'm doing now is a light covering of the wash. And just keep your brush moving in the same direction and you shouldn't get too many streaks. It's more or less a glaze now. just to give it a nice green tinge.
Okay, so next up is attaching the walls to the board. So I've got the main part of the board here, and what I do is I use these mending plates. You can get them from hardware stores, or I bought mine on eBay, and in fact I'm still waiting for some more to be delivered. So that's what we use. The principle behind it is if you undo the screw, that leaves the mending plate to move into position. So if you imagine you've got your board there, I've undone the wrong side, but the principle is that I'll go up that way and it locks onto the magnet, holds the board in place. So what I did was to mark off on the board where the magnet is. I marked it on the board. And then you take your mending plate from the mark there, make the second mark, so you've got that hole and that hole. And then we take I've got like a 2mm drill bit in this mini drill thing. Drill a hole. Doesn't have to be really deep because the screws are quite small. Battery's going. So I've got 2 holes, and then it's just a case of screwing in screws that it comes with are only about, well, 3/4 inch I think. So I've done that to the chamber door side, and I've done along the long wall as well. So the next shot you'll see is me putting the walls in position on top of the board. Okay, so I'm just going to attach the back wall now. Flip the brackets up into position. I can get hold of them. That's it, locked in there. So I'll just take the camera off the clamp a minute. Okay, so there we are, all done. So we've got the side wall there, main board, and of course the chamber door. What I need to do then is to tidy up the top here. If I just paint it dark grey, just so it fits with the top of that strip there. But nice looking. Looks pretty good. Right, the final stage is to seal it, and I'm going to use Mod Podge, but funny enough it says matte on there, but it actually gives it a lovely sheen. It looks like it has a wet chamber. So I've filled up to there with Mod Podge, and I've put about half again of water. I just need to mix it, and it's just a case of brushing it on now. Actually, this looks a bit runnier than last time, so I'll do
I'll add some more Mod Podge to it. Okay, so we're ready to go. I'm using the trusty 1-inch brush again. Got it from Tesco's. You can get them from B&Q. And trying not to let it get too heavy. But it's quite a decent coverage. Keep it even, and see what you think after the first coat. If it needs another coat, you can always put another one on top of it. So it's just a little bit of water in it. I'd hate to put it on neat. I've actually tried it neat, but I know you've got to water it down a wee bit. This will seal, all the hard work that you've done, and it'll protect against shipping as well. Okay, so there we go. It's just a case of letting it dry now. What I'll do with the other board is just leave the windows and doors. Well, I might do the doors. I'll leave the windows if I can, because I want them to remain matte. So I'll just go and grab the side wall now, and I'll be back. Yeah, the plan is just to go around the stone part and leave that as it is, because it'll be a nice, interesting change of texture as well. So this will be nice and wet and shiny, and then the doors and windows will be nice and dry and matte. So that's the plan anyway. It's going well so far. It's I don't want to jinx it, but the 1-inch brush is working quite well with the gaps in between the windows. So anything smaller, and I'd have to go down to a smaller brush. But luckily, I've got enough control to get close to the borders. So I'm happy with that. So we'll come back when it's dry. Okay, so there we are, finished. The Mod Podge gives it a lovely smooth finish, and of course it also protects it as well from minor damage. It's still at risk from if you drop something on it, and it will chip, but it's easy enough to cover over again if you put a bit of grey paint on it and then put a wash over the top. You won't know the difference. So yeah, that's it. Another board done. I really like making these. It's a good process, and you can spend a couple hours a night and just slowly do bits here and there. I need to say thanks to Eddie at the Alchemist Workshop. He did the circles for the doors for me, and you can get these boards off of his eBay site. I think it's on Facebook as well, and he did the doors and the windows as well. He made the doors larger for me, which I'm thankful for. So that's it. Yeah, it's been quite a long video, I think, this one, so hopefully you'll enjoy it. If there's anything you don't understand, get in touch in the comments below. I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. I'll try and put links to everything in the description below so you can find this stuff. And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.